My name is Margaret Hale, but everyone calls me Maggie. I am 64 years old. I live in a small blue house on a quiet street with a white mailbox and a lemon tree that leans toward the sun. For most of my life, that house felt like a person to me, steady, warm, and always listening. 2 weeks ago, a doctor in a stiff, white coat said my body was failing. He used careful words, but the message was simple. I might not have much time. I walked out of the hospital with a paper bracelet still on my wrist and a calm smile on my face. I was not afraid. I had lived a full life. I had loved people. I had tried to be kind. But when my family heard the news, kindness did not walk into the room with them. Greed did. They didn't even wait a day. That afternoon, they gathered in my living room like it was a stage, and I was the quiet prop in the corner. My son, Daniel, wore a suit like he was at a job interview. My daughter, Olivia, had her phone out, typing fast. My sister, Carol, kept touching the curtains and saying things like, "It's so much natural light in here. Perfect for a home office." Daniel's wife, Brooke, smiled at me with lips tight as string and then used that same smile to measure the distance from the couch to the window, like she was already picking where her couch would go. Even my nephew, Tyler, who once called me his favorite aunt, stood by the fireplace, counting something in his head. Maybe dollars. Maybe rooms. They started out sweet. They brought me tea. They touched my hand. They told me I was strong and brave. And then they started talking about the house. "I mean, it just makes sense for Dan to take it," Brooke said, sliding her eyes toward the hallway like she could see the bedrooms. "Family home. Family legacy. We'll keep it up." Olivia laughed a soft, tired laugh. "You mean you'll keep it up? Dan can barely keep his car clean. Mom, you always said this place would be mine one day. I'm the one who stayed close. I did the grocery runs. I took you to physical therapy." "You took me twice," I said, still smiling. "That's 2 more times than he did," Olivia snapped, nodding at her brother. Carol lifted her chin. "Enough. Maggie, you know I've been renting forever. I've always wanted a place where I could paint. Remember? Daddy always said the daughters should stick together. Maybe it's time I finally have a home I don't have to give back at the end of the month." The room changed shape in that moment. The air got thicker. The lemon tree outside knocked gently on the window, like even it wanted to step in and say, "Stop." My children's voices grew hard. They said words like fair and right and promised, as if those words could build walls and put roofs over their heads. They forgot to say love. They forgot to say thank you. I sat very still and watched them argue over the story of my life, like it was a yard sale item with a handwritten tag. I smiled and said nothing. "Mom, you're being quiet," Daniel said, trying to sound soft and failing. "We need to plan. We need to know what you want." "What I want," I said, "is for everyone to sit down on the sofa and listen. Tomorrow morning at 10, we'll meet with Mr. Bennett. He's my lawyer. He will explain everything." Brooke's jaw twitched. "Explain what?" "The deed," I said. Silence fell like a heavy blanket. Even Tyler looked up from the fireplace. "What about the deed?" Olivia asked. I kept my smile. "You'll hear it from him." Brooke stared at me. For a second, I could see her search my face the way you search a dark room for the light switch. When she didn't find it, she looked away. "Fine," she said too fast. "Tomorrow." That was the peak, the hot, sharp top of the mountain. To them, I was a door they wanted to open. They didn't see the lock. They didn't know who had the key. After they left, the house felt like itself again. The lemon tree shadows reached across the floor. The refrigerator hummed. My best friend from church, a round little woman named June, came over with soup I didn't ask for and sat beside me while I ate. June knew more of my truth than anyone because she'd been there for the slow, quiet moments that don't make a big story but build a life. She held my hand and did not ask about the house. She asked about my heart. "Are you okay?" she said. "Yes," I said. "I'm sad, but I'm okay." "You are always the glue," she whispered. "People like glue never get credit until the picture falls apart." We didn't talk about lawyers or deeds. We talked about small things, the way my husband, James, used to whistle when he watered the lawn, the way Olivia ate peanut butter with a spoon when she was 6, the way Daniel cried when he lost his first baseball game and then practiced every day for a month. We talked about Carol bringing me thrift store dresses and saying, "Try this one, Maggie. You'll look like sunshine." We talked about Tyler, who used to build Lego towers that reached the coffee table edge and then clap for himself like he'd invented buildings. I don't say this to make myself look good. I say it because it is true. I try to be kind. Not because I am perfect, but because kindness was my way of being strong. When James got sick, I sat by his bed and read him jokes even when he was too tired to laugh. When Carol's second marriage ended, I let her sleep in the guest room for 6 months and never asked about rent. When Daniel lost his job, I helped with his car payment. When Olivia said she needed just a little help getting through the summer, I paid the electric bill and pretended I didn't see the new shoes on her feet the next week. I told myself family is a circle, not a scorecard. But circles can be twisted. Circles can be broken. The day my children stood in my living room and treated my home like a prize, I felt the circle wobble. That night, after June left and the house went quiet, I made tea and walked to the small hallway where the family photos hang. James is in many of them, with his kind eyes and his sleeve rolled up, always mid-task, fixing a shelf, icing a cake, holding a baby. In the largest frame, we're standing on the front steps on the day we closed on the house. The paint behind us is fresh. My hair is full and dark. We look tired and proud. I touched the glass and whispered, "I kept my promise, James." Then I went to the study. The safe sits in the corner, hidden by a woven basket and a stack of old magazines. It is not a big safe. It does not look important. But inside it rests paper that can change faces and futures. I spun the dial. The little metal door opened with a click. I reached in and touched the envelope with my name on it, the one Mr. Bennet told me to keep cool and dry and quiet until the day it was needed. I placed the envelope into my purse. I did not move it because I was afraid my family would steal it. I moved it because I knew what fear does to people. Fear makes good people do small, mean things they never thought they'd do. The doctor's words had frightened them, not because they were going to lose me, but because they might lose what they believed was owed to them. I didn't want temptation sitting in a dark little box where only a number stood between it and a bad idea. The next morning, I woke up before the sun. I made breakfast. I sliced an orange from the lemon tree's cousin at the grocery store and laughed at myself for being sentimental. I put on a blue sweater and pinned James's tiny silver tie clipped to the collar like a secret medal. At 9:30, June pulled into the driveway to take me to Mr. Bennet's office. The sky was the soft, sleepy gray of a day that is not sure if it will rain or shine. We never made it to the end of a street. As I locked the front door, a car I knew too well slid against the curb. Daniel got out fast, not even bothering to close the door behind him. Brooke stepped out on the passenger side, with a leather folder hugged to her chest. Olivia's car came right after, music thumping, and she jumped out with her hair still wet. Carol's old sedan pulled in last. She climbed out carefully, smoothing her sweater. "Mom," Daniel said, breathless, "we need to talk before the lawyer." "Talk to me at his office," I said, keeping my voice even. "It's better that way." Brooke stepped closer. "It's simple, actually." She opened her folder and pulled out a stack of papers. "A quitclaim deed. We had a notary friend draw it up. Saves everyone time. You just sign and we file it, and then Daniel can—" "No," Olivia said, pushing Brooke's hand away and turning to me. "Don't sign anything. Mom, you're not thinking straight. This is exactly why we should cancel the lawyer and just keep it in the family. I'll handle taxes." Carol cut in. "Let the woman breathe," she said, but her eyes were on the folder. June stepped between us like a tree growing up in the crack of a sidewalk. "We're leaving," she told them. "Back up." Daniel's mouth tightened. "Mom, you always told us to keep the peace." "I did," I said. "And I plan to." Brooke held the pages out again. I could see the blanks where someone wanted to put my name. I could see the lines where someone wanted to take my life's roof and move it over theirs. "If you don't sign," she whispered, "it'll get messy." I looked at her. I thought of the day she married my son in a dress that sparkled at the shoulders. I thought of how she cried in the kitchen when their first baby didn't come, and how I made her tea and told her sometimes love takes the long road. I thought of the time she left muddy shoes on my rug and apologized 3 times. People are not one thing, I reminded myself. People are many things stacked inside the same skin. "It's already messy," I said. "Please get in your cars. We'll see you at Mr. Bennett's." They didn't move.
"Fine," June said.
"I'm calling him." She pulled out her phone. The screen lit up. June's mouth made a little O. "Maggie," she said, "you have 3 missed calls." Before I could answer, my own phone buzzed in my pocket. It was Mr. Bennett. I clicked accept. "Maggie," he said, voice tight, "are you safe?" "Yes," I said slowly. "Why?" "Someone tried to access your file at my office this morning. Told the receptionist they were your power of attorney. They weren't. We've secured everything, but—" He paused, and I could hear him breathe. "Do not sign anything. And do not let anyone into your house." I felt the street tilt under my feet. "We're on the porch," I said. "Go back inside," he said. "Lock the door. I'll meet you here in 20 minutes." I hung up. The family was looking at me like I was holding a treasure and a secret and a bomb. "What did he say?" Daniel asked. "He said to meet him at his office," I said. "And to lock my door." Olivia crossed her arms. "We're your children." "Yes," I said. "That's exactly why." I turned to go back inside. The lemon tree swayed. The porch boards creaked. June followed me in. I closed the door. The lock clicked. I leaned my head against the wood and tried to breathe like the doctor told me to when the room spun. Slow in, slower out. Then June's eyes got big. "What is it?" I asked. She pointed to the side table by the entryway, to my purse, to the little zip pocket where I had tucked the envelope, safe and quiet and close to my heart. "Maggie," she whispered, "where's the envelope?" My breath stopped in my throat. I grabbed the purse. I opened the pocket. It was empty. My hands went cold. I dumped the whole bag on the table. Coins, tissues, lip balm, an old grocery list with lemons circled twice. No envelope. A shadow crossed the frosted glass of the front door. A knock shook the wood, 3 short raps, quick and hard. I looked at June. She looked back at me, eyes wide, mouth open, and said the last thing I expected to hear on that soft gray morning. "They know," she breathed. "Maggie, they know." The knocking came again, louder this time, and a voice I loved once and still loved in some small stubborn way called through the door, gentle and dangerous at the same time.
"Mom?"
"Open up. We just want to talk about the deed." The knocks came harder this time, shaking the door against its frame. The calm gray of the morning had slipped away, and in its place was a storm I could feel but not see. I pressed my palm against the wood, as if I could hold it steady with the weight of my hand alone. "Mom," Daniel's voice called again, softer now, coaxing. "We just want to talk. Let us in." June stood frozen beside me, her fingers twisting the hem of her sweater. "Don't open it, Maggie," she whispered. "Not until Mr. Bennett gets here." But my heart was thudding. Not from fear of the knocking, it was the missing envelope. My chest tightened as if all the air had been sucked out of the room. That envelope wasn't just paper. It wasn't just ink and signatures. It was the truth. And without it, everything could be twisted into lies. I forced my voice to sound steady. "Daniel, Brooke, Olivia, Carol, step back from this house. The lawyer will explain everything. Until then, you don't belong inside." For a long moment, silence answered me. Then Olivia's voice cut through, sharp as glass. "So that's how it is? You think you can just lock us out? After everything I've done for you? You've lost it, Mom. You're confused. This house belongs to us anyway. Why drag it out?" I felt June squeeze my hand. Inside my chest, grief pressed down heavier than fear. My children, my own blood, standing on the other side of the door, speaking to me like vultures circling. The knocks stopped. Footsteps shuffled on the porch. Then came the low creak of the porch boards, someone moving closer to the window. I darted my eyes toward the glass panes by the entryway. A shadow stretched across them. "They're trying to see inside," June hissed. I looked at the table, at my spilled purse, at the blank space where the envelope should have been. My mind replayed the moment yesterday, sliding it into the pocket, zipping it shut. Did it slip out when I bent to pick up my keys? Did someone take it when I wasn't looking? The questions hammered at my skull. And then, as if fate itself wanted to twist the knife deeper, the phone rang again. June snatched it up, glanced at the screen, and her face went pale. "It's Olivia." "Don't answer," I said quickly. But the ringing filled the silence between the knocks, a shrill reminder that this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The phone stopped. We both exhaled. And then, as if the world wanted to laugh at us, it buzzed again, this time a text. The screen lit up with 5 words that turned my blood cold. "We have the envelope, Mom." The words on the screen burned into my eyes. "We have the envelope, Mom." I felt my stomach sink like a stone dropped in deep water. My fingers trembled as I reached for the phone, staring at those 5 words over and over. They weren't just words. They were a weapon. My heart pounded so hard that I pressed my hand against my chest, afraid it might break through my ribs. June gasped. "Oh my Lord, Maggie, they..." "Don't." I cut her off, voice sharp. My throat was dry. I swallowed hard. "Don't say it." I sank into the armchair by the door, the same one James used to nap in after mowing the lawn. For the first time since the doctor told me I was dying, I felt fear, not of death, but of betrayal. Betrayal so close, it carried my blood in its veins. Another knock. Softer this time. Then Daniel's voice, calm, too calm. "Mom, let's not make this harder than it has to be. We've got what we need. Just let us in so we can figure this out together." June's face tightened. "Together," she whispered. "He means take it." I closed my eyes. 100 memories flashed. Daniel's first bicycle ride down the street, Olivia's small hand holding mine on her first day of school, Carol sneaking chocolate chip cookies into my purse when James was sick. I wanted to scream at them through the door. How did we get here? But screaming wouldn't change the truth. They had the envelope. I stood up, legs unsteady. "We're leaving," I said to June. She blinked. "Leaving? Where?" "To Mr. Bennett's office. If they want to fight, they'll have to fight in front of him." Her eyes widened. "But what if they follow us?" I looked at her. "Then at least the truth will have a witness." I grabbed my coat, shoved my scattered belongings back into my purse, and took a deep breath. June stayed close, her arm brushing mine as though ready to catch me if I stumbled. When I opened the door, the porch was empty. No Daniel. No Brooke. No Olivia. No Carol. Just silence and the soft sway of the lemon tree in the breeze. But I knew better. They were out there, watching. "Quick," I whispered. We hurried to June's car. The keys rattled in her shaking hands as she slid into the driver's seat. My heart raced with every second that passed. As soon as the engine roared to life, a black sedan pulled away from the curb and slid in behind us. June's knuckles went white on the steering wheel. "They're following us." "Drive," I said, my voice stronger than I felt. The streets blurred past. My eyes stayed locked on the side mirror, where Daniel's car clung to us like a shadow. Every turn, every stop sign, they were there. My children. My family. The ones who were supposed to protect me in my last days. I pressed my forehead to the cool glass of the window. For a moment, I thought of James again. He had always said, "When people show you who they are in hard times, believe them." I had never wanted to believe this. Not from my own. We reached Mr. Bennett's office building, a brick square with wide steps and glass doors that reflected the gray sky. June parked close to the entrance.
"Go," she urged.
"I'll follow." I stepped out, clutching my purse tight. My knees felt weak, but I forced myself up those steps, one after another. Daniel's car screeched to a stop at the curb.
Doors slammed.
Voices rose. "Mom," Olivia shouted. "Wait." But I didn't wait. I pushed through the doors and into the lobby where Mr. Bennet himself was waiting, his face grave. "Maggie," he said, taking my arm gently. "I've got everything ready. But we need to talk because if they've got that envelope—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Behind me, the glass doors burst open. Daniel stormed in, Brooke and Olivia at his heels, Carol trailing just behind. Their faces were flushed, eyes sharp, like hunters who thought the prey was cornered. "Mom," Daniel said, his voice dripping with false calm. "We're doing this as a family." I turned slowly to face them, my heart steady now, my voice steady too. "You may have the envelope," I said, "but you don't have the deed." Their faces shifted. Brooke blinked. Olivia's jaw dropped. Carol froze mid-step. "What are you talking about?" Daniel demanded. I looked at Mr. Bennet. He nodded, then reached into his briefcase and pulled out a thick, sealed folder. "This," he said, placing it on the table, "is the real deed." The room went silent. And in that silence, for the first time in years, I felt the power tilt back into my hands. The silence in that office was the kind that pressed against your ears, heavy and suffocating. You could hear the hum of the fluorescent lights above, the faint buzz of the old air conditioner, even the soft creak of the leather chair as Mr. Bennet adjusted his posture. But none of those sounds mattered. The only thing that mattered was the thick folder resting on the polished oak table, and the way my family's eyes locked onto it like starving animals spotting food. Daniel was the first to speak. His voice was low, but the sharp edge in it betrayed his calm mask. "What do you mean the real deed?" Brooke's fingers twitched on his arm, pulling him back half a step. She tried to hide it, but I saw the panic ripple across her face. Olivia, on the other hand, couldn't hide anything. Her eyes darted from me to Mr. Bennet to the folder, widening with every second. Carol stood still, lips pressed so tightly together that the color drained from them. She had always been the quiet one, the sister who swallowed her thoughts until they burned holes in her chest. But I knew that silence. It wasn't peace, it was calculation. Mr. Bennet cleared his throat and opened the folder. The papers inside were crisp, official, stamped with seals and signed with ink that carried weight. He tapped the top page with a steady finger. "This," he said, his voice even, "is the deed Maggie signed and notarized years ago. It was filed with the county clerk, properly recorded and legally binding. It cannot be undone by a piece of paper slipped out of her purse or forged in a notary's office." Olivia let out a sharp breath. So the envelope was a decoy," I said quietly. Their heads whipped toward me. I didn't flinch. I met each pair of eyes, one by one. "Your father and I planned this years ago. We knew that one day there might be greed, pressure, or even confusion around what would happen to this house. So we prepared. The envelope you fought over, the one you thought was the answer, it was nothing more than letters to each of you. My words. My feelings. That's all." The color drained from Olivia's face. You lied to us." "No," I said, my voice steady. "I protected myself. I protected what your father and I built together. There's a difference." Daniel slammed his palm against the table. The sound cracked through the air, making June flinch beside me. "You think this is fair? After everything we've done for you? After all the times we've helped?" My voice broke then, not from weakness, but from the flood of memories. "Do you mean the times you asked for money, for bills you never paid back? The times you borrowed my car and returned it on empty? The times you left me alone when I was sick, but came running the moment you thought there was something to take?" His mouth opened, but no words came. I leaned forward, hands trembling but strong in their truth. "You showed me who you are when you thought I was dying. You didn't sit beside me, hold my hand, or ask what I needed. You circled me like vultures, fighting over a house while I was still breathing in it." Carol finally spoke. Her voice cracked like thin ice. "Maggie, I didn't mean for it to be like this." But her eyes betrayed her. They were still fixed on the folder, on the house, on the prize. Mr. Bennet closed the folder with a snap. Enough, he said firmly. Maggie is my client, and everything is in order. Unless you plan to challenge this in court, which I strongly advise against, this discussion is over. Brooke's face flushed deep red. This isn't over, she spat, grabbing Daniel's arm. It can't be. She can't just. Yes, she can. Mr. Bennet cut her off. And she has. For a moment, it felt like victory. I felt James in the room with me, smiling that small, proud smile he always wore when he fixed something that had been broken. I felt the house wrapped around me like a shield. I felt stronger than the sickness in my bones. But then Olivia's phone buzzed on the table. She snatched it up, glanced at the screen, and her eyes widened with something new. Not greed, not anger, but fear. Real fear. What is it? Daniel demanded. Olivia's voice shook. It's from Tyler. My nephew. The one who had stayed quiet on the sidelines. The one I thought still had a good heart somewhere in him. Olivia read the message aloud, her voice trembling. If Aunt Maggie doesn't change the deed, I'll make sure everyone knows what I found in Dad's old safe. She won't survive the scandal. The room went dead silent. My heart skipped a beat. My nephew. My brother's son. Holding something I didn't even know existed over my head like a knife. June's hand flew to her mouth. Oh, Maggie. And in that moment, I realized the house wasn't the only thing my family was after. There was something else. Something darker. Something buried in the past that I had no idea was about to claw its way into the present. The victory I had felt just seconds ago dissolved into ash. Because now, I wasn't just fighting for my home. I was fighting for the truth. And the truth, I feared, could destroy us all. I felt the blood drain from my face as Olivia's trembling voice echoed through the office. If Aunt Maggie doesn't change the deed, I'll make sure everyone knows what I found in Dad's old safe. She won't survive the scandal. The words hung in the air, heavy and poisonous. My knees nearly buckled. James's old safe? My late husband's safe? What could Tyler have possibly found in there? My husband had been many things, gentle, hardworking, kind to a fault. But secrets? My James wasn't a man of secrets. Or was he? My fingers curled against the table, nails biting into my palm. What's safe? I whispered, though my voice trembled. Daniel stepped forward, his eyes darting nervously toward his sister. Tyler must be bluffing. He doesn't know anything. But Brooke shook her head, lips tight.
No.
He's not bluffing. That boy has been snooping around ever since he lost his last job. He told me once he found papers in your basement, Maggie. Said he was going to save them for later. I thought he was just trying to sound important. My heart thudded painfully in my chest. I looked at Mr. Bennet. His calm lawyer mask cracked slightly, showing something I had rarely seen on his face. Worry. Do you know what he's talking about? He asked gently. I shook my head. James never told me about anything hidden. He wasn't that kind of man. Unless... My words trailed off as a thought pierced my mind. James had kept a small corner in the basement locked. He told me it was for tools and odds and ends. I never questioned it. We had trust. We had love. We didn't go searching through each other's shadows. June put her hand over mine. Maggie, breathe. Whatever's in that safe, we'll face it. But my children's faces told a different story. Olivia's lips twisted in a smirk, though her eyes still held unease. Daniel rubbed the back of his neck, calculating. Carol stood frozen, her silence louder than anyone's words. Then Olivia spoke, her voice cold. Well, looks like it's simple. Sign the house over, Mom, and this doesn't have to get out. The betrayal hit harder than the doctor's words ever did. I was sick, yes, but it wasn't the sickness breaking me. It was them. My own flesh and blood, standing in front of me, trying to blackmail their dying mother. Out, I said, my voice low but firm. What? Olivia blinked. Out, I repeated, louder this time. Get out of this office. Get out of my sight. If you think you can scare me with shadows, you don't know me at all. James and I built our life on truth, and I will not let you burn it down with lies. Daniel's face flushed red. You think you can still talk to us like we're children?
You're old, Mom. Weak.
You don't have the strength. I have more strength in my little finger than you've shown in your whole life. I cut him off, the fire in me surprising, even myself. Brooke grabbed his arm. Daniel, stop. This isn't the place. But before they could leave, the glass door swung open. A young man stepped in, tall, lanky, with messy hair and eyes that carried both defiance and guilt. Tyler. He held a brown envelope in his hand, gripped so tightly the edges bent. Everyone froze. Good, he said, his voice cold and too steady for someone his age. You're all here. Makes this easier. Tyler, Carol whispered, her face draining of color. What are you doing? He ignored her. His eyes locked on me. Aunt Maggie. I told them I'd expose the truth if you didn't change the deed. But I think it's better if I show you myself. He tossed the envelope onto the table. It slid across the polished wood and stopped right in front of me. My hand shook as I reached for it. Inside were old photographs, yellowed with age, and a stack of folded papers. My breath caught when I pulled out the top photo.
James.
My James. Standing beside a woman I didn't recognize. She was young, dark-haired, holding a baby in her arms. And James's hand, his hand rested gently on her shoulder. The room tilted. What is this? I whispered, though the answer was already stabbing at my heart. Tyler leaned forward, his voice cruel. That's your husband, Aunt Maggie. My uncle. The man everyone thought was so perfect. But he had another family. A secret family. And now so does everyone else. My vision blurred. My children gasped. June grabbed my arm before I collapsed into the chair. The walls of my world, everything I thought I knew, everything I had believed in, shattered in one instant. And as I sat there, holding the photo that turned my marriage into a lie, I realized this fight wasn't about the house anymore. It was about the truth. And the truth was about to burn us all alive. The photograph slipped from my trembling fingers and fluttered to the floor like a dead leaf. My chest tightened until every breath scraped like glass. James, my James. The man who promised me forever. The man who kissed me under the lemon tree on our wedding night. The man who held my hand when I gave birth to Daniel and whispered, "You're my whole world, Maggie." And yet here he was, captured on glossy paper, standing beside another woman. A woman with a baby in her arms. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the table to keep myself steady. June knelt beside me, whispering, "Breathe, Maggie, breathe." But her voice felt far away, muffled by the roaring in my ears. Daniel picked up the photo and stared at it, his jaw tightening. "This doesn't prove anything," he said, though his voice lacked conviction. "It could be anyone. It could be." "Look at the date," Tyler cut in coldly. "It's stamped on the back. 1985. That was during your parents' marriage, wasn't it?" Olivia snatched the picture from Daniel's hand, flipped it over, and gasped. "Oh my God, it's true." Carol pressed her hands over her mouth, eyes wide. "Maggie, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." I wanted to scream.
To cry.
To deny it all. But the photo was only the beginning. I unfolded the papers with shaking hands, each sheet tearing at the seams of my heart. Birth certificates, letters, bank transfers, proof of support sent quietly, monthly, to a woman named Eleanor Harper. A secret family. A son. James had a son. And that son would be older than Daniel. Tears blurred my vision, dripping onto the papers. Why? I whispered, not to Tyler, not to my children, but to the ghost of James standing in my memory. "Why would you do this to me?" Tyler leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "I told you, the truth always comes out." Daniel's face turned red. "You had no right to dig into his life." "No right?" Tyler snapped. "He was my uncle. I deserved to know. We all did. But no, Aunt Maggie here got to play perfect little widow, while the rest of us lived in ignorance." The words hit me like stones. I wasn't the one who betrayed them. I wasn't the liar. But standing there, With the evidence laid bare, I felt like a fraud in my own skin. Olivia's eyes darted to me, sharp and accusing. "Did you know, Mom? Did you know about this and keep it from us?" Her words sliced deeper than the photo ever could. My own daughter, doubting me. I shook my head violently.
No.
I didn't know. James never told me. Not once. He swore I was his everything. I believed him. I loved him. June stood, fire in her eyes. "You stop this right now," she snapped at Olivia. "Don't you dare blame her for his choices. She's the victim here, not you." But my children weren't listening. They were too busy whispering to one another, their faces pale, their eyes calculating. I could almost see the gears turning in their minds. What did this mean for the house? For the inheritance? For the family name? Mr. Bennet finally spoke, his calm voice slicing through the chaos. "Whether or not these documents are authentic, they change nothing about the deed. This house belongs to Maggie."
That has not changed.
If there is another heir from James's past, then that is a separate legal matter to be addressed in probate, not here. Tyler smirked. "Oh, it'll be addressed, all right. Because guess what? That secret son, he's still alive. And he's coming." The room went cold.
What?
I whispered. Tyler's eyes glittered with triumph. "His name is Matthew. He's 40 years old, lives in Chicago. I reached out to him last week. He knows everything now, and he's on his way here." I gripped the edge of the table tighter, my heart racing so fast I thought it might stop altogether. James's son. Another child. Another heir. A stranger who carried half my husband's face, half his blood.
And he was coming for me.
Coming for the house. Coming for the truth. June squeezed my hand, her voice a whisper, meant only for me. "Maggie, whatever storm is coming, you're not facing it alone." But as the door to Mr. Bennet's office swung open and a tall man stepped inside, broad shoulders, dark hair streaked with gray, eyes that looked frighteningly like James's, my heart shattered all over again. Because the storm was already here. The door swung shut behind him with a heavy thud that silenced every voice in the room. The man who stepped in carried himself with a strange mix of hesitation and quiet authority, as if every step he took was both a burden and a right. He wore a plain gray jacket, jeans worn at the knees, and boots that carried the dust of travel. But it was his face that stole the breath from my lungs, those deep-set eyes, framed by familiar lines, so hauntingly similar to James's that my heart twisted in my chest. For a split second, I could almost see my late husband standing there again. The tilt of his jaw, the way his brow furrowed when he was nervous. But this wasn't James. This was the ghost of the choices he'd hidden from me, flesh and bone, standing alive in front of us. "Matthew," Tyler said with a smirk, spreading his arms as though he had just unveiled a grand prize. "Welcome to the family." My children froze. Olivia's phone slipped from her hand and clattered against the floor. Daniel's mouth hung open, his face pale. Carol pressed a shaking hand against her chest. Matthew's eyes scanned the room, resting on me last. He studied me, his gaze heavy with something I couldn't quite name. Curiosity, guilt, maybe even sorrow. "You must be Margaret," he said softly. His voice carried a low timbre, so much like James's that it nearly broke me. I couldn't answer. My throat was tight, my words locked behind a flood of emotions: anger, grief, confusion, betrayal. "I didn't want to come here like this," he continued, taking a hesitant step closer. But when Tyler showed me the papers, when I saw my father's handwriting, the transfers, the letters, I had to know. I had to see for myself. Daniel found his voice, sharp and hostile. "You don't belong here." Matthew turned to him, his expression calm but steady. "Legally, I might." The words detonated in the room. Olivia stepped forward, shaking her head violently. "No, no, no. You can't just walk in here and claim everything. This is our home. Our families. Mom, tell him." She spun toward me, eyes wide and desperate. But I couldn't answer. I was staring at Matthew, searching his face for something, anything, That would explain why James had kept him hidden, why he had carried such a massive secret through our entire marriage. Matthew's eyes softened when he saw me struggling. "I didn't come here to fight you," he said, his voice quieter now. "I just wanted to understand who I am, where I come from, why my father." His words trailed off. He looked down at the floor, swallowing hard. Why he left me in the shadows. The pain in his tone pierced me deeper than the betrayal. Because in that moment, I realized this wasn't just about my grief. This was about his, too. Matthew hadn't asked to be born into secrecy. He hadn't asked to carry the burden of being the hidden son. But before I could speak, Daniel exploded. He shoved his chair back so hard it scraped the floor. "This is insane. Mom, don't you see what's happening? They're circling like sharks, Tyler, this guy, all of them. They want the house. They want the money. They don't care about you." "Daniel." I tried, but he cut me off. "No." His voice cracked. His face twisted with anger and something darker, fear. "I won't let you throw everything away for some stranger. If Dad betrayed us, that's on him, not on us. And I'll be damned if I let his mistake rob me of what's mine." His words lashed through the air like a whip. Olivia's face turned crimson. "Yours? This isn't just yours. Don't you dare act like you've carried more weight than I have. I'm the one who's been here, the one who's cared for her." "Cared for her?" Daniel barked, laughing bitterly. "Don't make me laugh, Olivia. You've been circling her like a vulture, waiting for your chance. Just admit it. Stop it." Carol's voice rang out suddenly, sharp and desperate. She stepped between them, her small frame trembling. "Do you hear yourselves? Your mother is right here, dying, and you're tearing her apart while she's still breathing." The words cut through, but only for a heartbeat. Because that's when Matthew spoke again, his voice steady and firm. "If the deed is all that matters, then yes, I have a claim. But I didn't come for the house. I came for the truth." He looked at me again, softer this time. "Margaret, did you really not know about me?" The room fell silent again. Every eye turned to me, and in that silence, the weight of my answer pressed down heavier than the sickness in my body. I opened my mouth, my voice breaking into the air. "No, I never knew. But if James left you in the shadows, then I owe you the light." Gasps rippled through the room. My children's faces twisted with shock and fury. Tyler smirked, satisfied. Matthew's eyes glistened with something unspoken. And that's when the real storm began. Because Daniel slammed his fist onto the table so hard that the folder of deeds and documents scattered to the floor. "Enough," he roared. "If you won't protect what's ours, Mom, then I will. If this stranger thinks he can steal my father's legacy, he'll have to go through me first." He turned on Matthew, fists clenched, face red with rage. And in that single terrifying moment, I realized my family was about to tear itself apart. Not with words, but with blood. Daniel's fist hovered in the air, his entire body trembling with the kind of rage I had only ever seen in him once before, when he was a boy and lost a baseball championship. Back then, his anger ended with a broken bat and tears in his father's arms. But James wasn't here now. And this wasn't a game. This was war. "Daniel, stop." I cried, my voice cracking under the weight of fear. "Don't you dare raise a hand in this office." But he didn't hear me, or he didn't want to. His chest heaved, eyes locked on Matthew like a predator ready to pounce. "You walk in here, claiming my father as yours, waving papers and old photos like they mean something. You think you can replace me? You think you can take what's mine?" Matthew didn't flinch. He stood tall, his face calm though his eyes burned with pain. "I don't want to replace you. I never asked for this. But I have as much right to the truth as you do." "Liar!" Daniel roared, and before anyone could stop him, he lunged. The room exploded into chaos. Chairs screeched across the floor as June screamed, "Daniel, no!" and tried to grab his arm. Mr. Bennett shoved his briefcase between them like a shield, but Daniel's momentum sent papers flying into the air like a storm of white birds. Matthew caught Daniel's shoulders before the fist landed, holding him back with surprising strength. The two men grappled, their faces inches apart, fury clashing against restraint. "Let go of me," Daniel spat. "Not until you calm down," Matthew growled. His voice was low, steady, but the tension in his jaw betrayed his own struggle to stay composed. Olivia shrieked, rushing forward, but Brooke yanked her back. "Stay out of it, Liv." Carol pressed herself against the wall, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Please, please stop. This isn't what James would have wanted." Her words struck me like lightning.
James.
The man I thought I knew. The man who had built this house with me brick by brick, promise by promise. And yet, even in death, he was the reason we were tearing each other apart. "Enough," I shouted, slamming my hand against the table so hard the sound cut through the chaos. To my shock, they froze. For a moment, the only sound was my ragged breathing. I looked at Daniel, my son, my firstborn, the boy who once kissed my cheek after every Little League game win or lose. His face was twisted in rage, but beneath it, I saw something else.
Fear.
Desperation. A child terrified of losing everything he thought was his. Then I turned to Matthew. His eyes, James's eyes, met mine, filled not with anger but sorrow. He didn't want this fight. He wanted answers. My heart broke in two. "Daniel," I said, my voice trembling, "if you raise your hand against your brother, you'll lose me forever." The word brother landed like a bomb. Olivia gasped. "You're calling him that? After everything? After what this means?" I swallowed hard. My chest ached with every word, but I forced them out. "If James fathered him, then yes, he's your brother. That's the truth, whether we like it or not. And I will not let this family sink deeper into hate because of something none of us chose." Daniel's face twisted, torn between rage and heartbreak. Slowly, Matthew released him, stepping back. Papers crunched under their feet, the broken silence of a family ripped apart. Mr. Bennett cleared his throat, his voice firm, almost commanding. "If this is going to escalate further, I'll have no choice but to call the authorities. This office is not a battleground." But before anyone could respond, Tyler's voice cut through the tension, smug and triumphant. "Well, isn't this perfect?" he sneered, leaning against the wall with his arms crossed. "The prodigal son returns, the golden boy cracks, and the saintly mother finally admits she's been living in a lie. Honestly, I should sell tickets." "Shut your mouth," Carol snapped, her voice shaking with fury. It was the first time I'd ever heard my sister sound so fierce. Tyler smirked.
"Why?"
"Because I'm telling the truth? You all thought Maggie was untouchable. But guess what? She's not. And now the whole world will know. Unless," his eyes slid to me, gleaming with greed, "unless you give me what I want." The room went still again. "What do you want, Tyler?" I asked, my voice hollow. He smiled, slow and cruel. "Half the house. In writing. Today." Olivia gasped. Daniel cursed under his breath. June shook her head, muttering, "Vultures. Every one of them." But Tyler only leaned closer, his grin widening. "Because if you don't, Aunt Maggie, Matthew won't be the only scandal this family has to deal with." My blood ran cold. "What do you mean?" Tyler tapped his temple. "Let's just say Uncle James's secrets weren't the only ones I found in that safe." And with those words, I realized the storm wasn't even close to ending. Because the house wasn't the only thing my family stood to lose. Tyler's words slithered through the room like venom. Uncle James's secrets weren't the only ones I found in that safe. My breath caught. My heart hammered so hard I thought the doctor's prophecy, that I didn't have much time, might come true right here, in Mr. Bennett's office. "What do you mean?" I asked again, my voice breaking. Tyler smirked, enjoying the power his words gave him. He dangled the moment like a fisherman with a wriggling catch. "You all thought the photo was the worst of it. That James having another family was the big shock. But oh, Aunt Maggie," he leaned forward, his grin cruel. "The real scandal isn't James's betrayal. It's yours." The room erupted in gasps. Daniel's head snapped toward me. "What is he talking about?" Olivia's face twisted with disgust. Mom, did you? Don't. I snapped, my voice cracking like thunder. Don't you dare finish that sentence. I don't even know what he's implying. But my denial didn't shake the shadow Tyler had cast. With a dramatic pause, he pulled another envelope from inside his jacket. He slapped it onto the table, the sound sharp and final. Letters, he said simply. From you.
To someone else.
While you were married to Uncle James. My vision blurred. My knees weakened. That's impossible, I whispered. But Tyler just pushed the envelope closer. Then open it. My hands trembled as I reached for it. June tried to stop me. Maggie, don't. But I had to know. My fingers tore at the flap, and I pulled out the stack inside. Letters. In my handwriting. I froze. The looping script was mine, down to the way I dotted my I's with little slants. The salutation. Dearest Richard. The closing. Forever yours, Maggie. No, my voice was barely audible. This isn't real. These aren't mine. But the pages told a different story, romantic words, confessions of longing, promises of secret meetings. Words I had never written, yet there they were, stamped with dates that overlapped with the happiest years of my marriage. Daniel's face twisted with rage. All this time, you've been painting Dad as the liar. And it was you? You cheated on him. Olivia shook her head in disbelief. Everything we thought we knew, it's all a lie. Tears burned my eyes.
No.
I never cheated on your father. I loved him with everything in me. Those letters are fake. Do you hear me? They're forged. Mr. Bennett snatched the papers from the table, flipping through them with a lawyer's sharp eye. She's telling the truth, he said firmly. These are forgeries. The ink, the dates, even a paper stock, it's all wrong. Whoever made these wanted them to look old, but it's sloppy work. See here. He pointed to the corner. This watermark wasn't manufactured until 2005. The relief that should have come never arrived, because my children weren't listening. Daniel crossed his arms. Of course you defend her. She's your client. Olivia turned away, tears streaking her cheeks. I can't believe this. First Dad, now Mom. This family is cursed. Carol, silent until now, stepped forward. Her voice was low but steady. Where did you get these, Tyler? Tyler shrugged, too casual. The safe. Where else? Carol's eyes narrowed.
No.
You're lying. That safe was locked for years. Only James and Maggie had the combination. So how did you get in? The smug mask on Tyler's face faltered for a split second, and I saw it. Fear. June's eyes widened. You forged them yourself. The room froze. Daniel turned on him, fury blazing. You made this up? Tyler's face twisted. What difference does it make? The truth about Uncle James was enough to break this family. These letters just pushed it along. You little snake, Carol hissed, her voice trembling with rage. But Tyler only smirked again, though his eyes betrayed panic. Doesn't matter. The damage is done. And unless Aunt Maggie hands over half that house, I'll make sure everyone in this town gets a copy of these. The air turned suffocating. I felt the walls closing in. The betrayal of James, the fury of my children, the lies Tyler wove like poison. I was drowning. My house, my legacy, my family, everything was slipping from my hands. Then Matthew stepped forward. His voice was quiet, but it carried like steel through the storm. Enough. Tyler laughed bitterly. And who's gonna stop me? You? Yes. Matthew's eyes narrowed. Because, unlike you, I don't need to destroy a dying woman to feel powerful. He snatched the forged letters from Tyler's hands and ripped them in two, then four, then tossed the pieces into the trash. Tyler lunged, but Matthew shoved him back with one strong hand. Try it again, Matthew growled, and I swear I'll drag you into court myself. Tyler's smirk vanished. His bravado cracked. He stormed toward the door, spitting curses under his breath. Before leaving, he shot me one last look, his eyes gleaming with hatred. This isn't over. The door slammed behind him. The room was silent again, but this silence was heavier than all the shouting before. My children stared at me, torn between doubt and anger. Matthew stood tall, his chest rising and falling, the ghost of James's face reflected in his features. I collapsed into the chair, my body weak, my soul heavier than ever. And for the first time since the doctor told me I was dying, I whispered the truth aloud, not just to myself, but to everyone in that room. I don't know if I'll survive the sickness. But I do know this. If this family doesn't change, if we let greed and lies destroy us, then the house won't matter. There won't be anything left worth saving. My voice cracked, tears spilling freely. Not even us. The weight of my words settled like ash. My children looked at me, their faces pale, their lips trembling. Matthew stood silent, watching. And in that fragile, breaking moment, I knew the choice lay ahead, between love and ruin, truth and lies, family and ashes. But before I could say more, my phone buzzed on the table. A new message. Unknown number. I picked it up with trembling hands. And my blood turned to ice as I read the words. I know what really happened to James. Meet me tonight, or the truth dies with me.